All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Iannello, and I am here to start off this evening with Maureen Bonanno from the Greenwich Scholarship Association. So I'm going to share my screen with you. I hope. And I want to get over to this slideshow if I can. Go. Okay. So my name is Michelle Iannello. I'm the program coordinator for school counseling here in the Greenwich Public Schools, and I welcome you all here. I'm excited to have you here. Financial aid is one of those things that is very stressful for a lot of people. And my hope, and I know Maureen's is as well, is that we're going to be able to provide you with information this evening that will try and help alleviate some of that stress for you. We will have a question and answer period at the end. I can't monitor it while I'm presenting, but at the end, I'll have an opportunity to look through anything. So if you have questions, please feel free to put it in the question and answer. Okay, so this is Maureen's slide. I'm going to let her take over from here. So let me know what you want me to click on first.
Okay, so again, my name is Maureen. I'm with Greenwich Scholarship Association, which is a nonprofit organization in Greenwich. We provide qualifying high school seniors with scholarship awards funded by over 125 generous community organizations, families, and individual sponsors. In 2023, or last year, we matched over $600,000 in scholarship funds with 83 graduating seniors. So, and then $150,000 in renewable scholarships. And renewable scholarships are scholarships that students will get for over the 4 years of their college span to previous graduates from Greenwich. All of our scholarships are need-based scholarships, which means that you must be able to demonstrate financial need in order to qualify for any scholarships from GSA. I think I'm kind of jumped off of this screen. So the
For me to open this up for you?
yeah, maybe the other one.
This one?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So to demonstrate financial need, you need to file a FAFSA, and I know Michelle's going to talk later more about FAFSA. I'm not an expert on it by any means, so I'll let Michelle handle that. So you have to file. To be eligible, you have to file FAFSA and apply for financial aid at your college choices in order to be eligible for any of our scholarships. If you don't file for FAFSA and apply for financial aid at your college choices, you can't receive any scholarships from GSA. So we do recognize that there are certain circumstances in which students can't file a FAFSA or do not qualify for financial aid. These students may be eligible for consideration, but you would have to speak with your guidance counselor. In general, our FAFSA, the student aid reports that are generated, I guess this year it's changed to now a student aid index. So the threshold is $25,000 for a family's expected contribution or this student aid index to get scholarships. All of our financially related information, all your financially related information is confidential and used for eligibility purposes only. So the application process. So the application went live in November and it's available on our website. It's not that complicated. It's definitely worth going through this process to do this. So just a quick, overview, you just go on and you create an account. Ideally, you put it in your school address, but in the student's email address. However, we really encourage you to add another email address because eventually your student email address is going to go away. And so we need to be able to contact you, especially the kids that are getting renewable scholarships. So you never know if that's going to be you. So the application can only be submitted electronically. And once you start the application, you don't have to finish it that night. Like you can start it and save it and revisit it. And in fact, that's really helpful this year because, as I'm going to get to, you have to add in that student aid report that's generated by your FAFSA. And most kids, I'm pretty sure, maybe probably no kids right now have that information yet. So you can always email me. My email is here. If you have any questions or you're having trouble with anything, I'm available all the time to help. Just any questions, just here are the email addresses that you can contact us. So as I mentioned, you're required to upload at the end your FAFSA student aid report. That's going to be generated once you complete your FAFSA. The SAR will not be generated if certain information is left blank on the FAFSA. So make sure that your information is complete before you upload your FAFSA. Let's see. Just keep in mind, in the past, it took about 5 days to generate this information. So give yourself time because our deadline for this application is March 8th. We're changing it probably to March 10th. So I have March 8th down here, but we're giving a little flexibility due to the circumstances this year. Again, if you're not eligible to file a FAFSA, just reach out to your guidance counselor. When filling out your application, make sure you explain any extenuating circumstances like divorce, death in family, loss of job, high medical bills. Any of that will help us determine the amount of scholarship money that you're eligible to receive. Everybody who submits an application will receive an automatically generated email verifying that the application was received. If you don't receive the email, then there's probably an issue. Just send me an email and we can work together to figure it out. So as I mentioned, the deadline here says March 8th, but changing it to March 11th. So then after you submit your application and you finalize your application, we'll review it. And let's see. If there's any information that is missing, we'll contact you and then we'll give you an answer. You'll be notified in early April whether or not you're eligible. So the next part is after we've determined who's eligible, we have an interview process. So it's nothing to be intimidated by. The interview process takes place at Greenwich High School. It's with our board members. We have about 20 board members. They're amazing people that take the time out of their day, and it's a full day. The interviews are mandatory. That means you have to be there. If you don't show up for the interview, you cannot get any money from us. They don't take long at all. You'll be excused from class. It's just a quick conversation with the board members because the board members review everyone's application. They really get to know each student, and we consider everyone on a case-by-case basis. So it's great practice too, just having a little interview. So after that, but just backing up. So by the time the interview day arrives, you'll have received your financial aid packages from the college that you've chosen. Because our interviews are May 2nd after the deadline of when you decide on college. So you should know, and you should have everything by then, your aid package. You'll have to bring that with you because this is how we determine how much money you're eligible for. Let's see. If you absolutely cannot attend the interview, you'd have to contact me directly. It's unlikely we can do anything, but there are, rare circumstances where we can allow missing the interviews. So I think that's pretty much it. So the other thing is the award distribution. So the award distribution is also a mandatory day. which is the day, we typically hold it on the day before graduation, which is the graduation rehearsal date. We don't have that date yet because graduation hasn't been determined yet. You or a family member must pick up the award. You're not getting an actual check. You're just being notified of how much money you're getting. So again, if you don't show up, you risk forfeiting your scholarships. The checks then are sent directly to the colleges. And just so you know, the checks, some kids get $500, and last year we gave out money up to $27,000 to students. So there's a wide range. It all depends on the student aid package, what they're getting, what their needs are. I mean, a lot of things go into the decision on how much money each student gets. But there's a, as I mentioned, we had last year $750,000. So divided by the number of students, you could get a fair amount of money. So again, start this application process. Email me if you have any questions. I'm going to hang on to here if you have any questions that you want to ask me tonight. And I think that's it. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Maureen. We were talking, I don't know if some of you may have been on before we started, and Maureen and I were saying that this really is something special for our Greenwich community. There aren't a whole lot of other places that we're aware of that offer such an amazing opportunity for students. So we're really fortunate to have CSA in our
Can I
town.
just add one more thing? So we work really closely with Michelle, and Jen Lynch is our she's a guidance counselor at Greenwich High School, and she's on our board of directors. So we are very familiar with Greenwich High School. Feel like we're part of the community at Greenwich High School. So we're well known. It's not, you know, I think you've seen, hopefully have seen our blurb in the newsletter that goes out by Mr. Mayo, the ParentLink newsletter. We're in the Miss Lockridge sends out our information in the College and Career Center update. So we are entrenched in the high school, and we're there to help you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Now we get to start talking about some of this information here that can be a little overwhelming for people. So what I've done is I've tried to put together resources for you, because I'm aware that a lot of these things, especially for parents who have never gone through this before, there's a lot of like, well, it's not relevant until it's relevant. I don't understand it until I have to sit down and actually do it. What do all these acronyms mean? Where can I find this information? And that's really what I want to show you by sharing different links, different websites, trying to explain to you about some of the terminology, because there are some very specific words that are related to financial aid. But always know, first and foremost, you can contact your student's counselor that can help you with some of this process. Perhaps the most important resource that you have in all of this will be the colleges themselves. They really are there to help you, the financial aid office. And if you don't ask the question, we won't get the answer. So I have, in my 30 years of experience in working with colleges, I have never encountered a financial aid person that wasn't willing to spend as much time as needed to help families. So I just want you to know that you're entering into a confusing time, but also a time where there's lots of support. Normally around this time, I would be saying, okay, like we should have completed our FAFSA and our CSS profile and all of these things. However, I have a link here, and what this is, it's going to pull us over to FAFSA. Now, FAFSA is in a interesting situation this year. It was supposed to normally within every year you would be applying for this process in October, by October 1st. They said that for this year, because they changed the form, they were going to have it ready by, oh geez, I don't even remember when the first deadline was, but it's still not ready. They're calling it a soft launch. So what that means is sometimes it's available and sometimes it's not. We're really hoping that we get more information about when this is going to be available for people. But what they've been telling us is that try to get on and see what you can do when you can do it. We're hoping that, again, that it will be available sooner rather than later, especially with a lot of the application deadlines that are going to be coming up. So we're aware of that. And I know that this is stressful and it will happen, I promise. This is a federal program, so I think you probably all know they can be stressful and that it's just dealing with the federal government with things too. But they also have some really good resources for you. So I included here the FAFSA soft launch information. I also included a link for you to the actual FAFSA itself when it's ready. I'm pretty sure that when you get onto this is where you'll come and this is where you'll be able to start a new form. And as I said, it may or may not be available to start off with when you get on. It could be. Sometimes they're saying, hey, it's available from noon to 6 or 10 to 3 or crazy things like that. So it's worth jumping on at different times if you want to try and see if you can get on during that process. But that's where that link is. There's also a lot of really good information, and this is a link that I shared for you as well. So this is a YouTube channel that the Federal Student Aid, with a million different opportunities for you to look through all kinds of videos, how to start your form, what happens after submitting, how do I complete the form if you have certain situations within your life that you need to take a look at. There's, what do I do if my parents are divorced? How do I do that? There's all kinds of frequently asked questions in here. So I think that there's a lot of help and support here, and I wanted to make sure that you had access to this information when you were looking around, especially, like I said, sometimes these things are not, it's not that we don't know how to do it, it's just overwhelming and we're stressed and we're trying to figure out how to do this. And we have our kid in the background saying, you have to get this done by this certain time. And I know I went through this with both of my kids. And even though I do this for my profession, it still it was different being on that other side, right? So I understand how it felt for me as a parent to go through this, and I would have really welcomed having some of these resources to help me when I had a question. So the FAFSA is that main form that you will need to complete in order to receive any kind of scholarship, grant, or financial aid. And that's through the federal government. The CSS profile is another type of financial aid document that you may find your college requires. And how will you know that? You can go onto this website and you can put in and see whether or not any of the schools that your student is planning on applying to that require the CSS profile. So right here, there's a spot that says check participating schools and what kind of scholarship information they may have for that. CSS profile is a division of College Board, which we all know. If you've met me at all, you know how much I love College Board. But it is an affiliate of College Board. And they actually do have some really good information on helping you complete it, how to navigate it, and what you need to do with specific situations or circumstances. So this website actually is very good and it does a good job of explaining what you need to know for them. We probably will talk a little bit more about that as we continue. Okay. The last part on this slide, and I understand there's a lot on here, but I want to make sure that you have some of these things right at the beginning so that you'll be able to go back and take a look at it later, is something called the Student Aid Report. So what is the Student Aid Report? The Student Aid Report is what is generated after you complete the FAFSA, okay? So this is right from the FAFSA itself. It has this little virtual assistant over here who can be helpful, but he can be frustrating at times as well. Just gonna throw that, so we'll get rid of him. This also will tell you how and when will I get my student aid report? What should be on there? What am I looking for with this? So what the student aid report does is it tells you really what it used to be called the estimated family contribution of how much you're going to be expected to pay. And I know that that's always that always got more than a little bit of a chuckle from me because I'm like, you've got to be kidding. But it will give you that information. Okay, so that is also what Maureen is talking about in terms of what they will need in order to help support the DSA scholarship. So we will talk more about that through this presentation, but I wanted to share some of that with you right off the bat. Let me get rid of some of these. Okay, I'm sure you have questions. I apologize, I can't monitor it right this second. Okay, so there's also other information that some colleges may ask to make things more confusing. I don't know where to put this guy. I'm gonna put that over there. Whoops, sorry about that. One of the things that happens with acceptances and financial aid and all those things now is everything is done online. And most of the colleges will help support students set up their student portal. And in their student portal is going to be information about, gee, were you accepted or not? It's not like I remember being a kid and everybody running out to the mailbox at the end of the day to look and see whether or not you got that skinny envelope or the fat envelope telling you, whether or not you were accepted. Now all these things come in through their portals. And the kids really have to be checking to ensure that they're getting that information. I felt like I was banging my head against the wall with one of my kids because he just was not checking regularly. And I'm like, can you please check your portal so we can see if your financial aid information came in? So you will find that that can be frustrating as a parent because you don't have that same kind of control and access because it all goes to them, which is why it also is important that you're encouraging your students to be checking their email on a regular basis and checking those portals for that information. There's also something called the Institutional Documentation Service, also a College Board service that collects family financial documents for various colleges. So I even, like when I first started learning about this, I was like, well, what's the difference? So you've got what they call the IDOC and the CSS. It's both College Board. What's the difference? So I wanted to share with you, and I put a little blurb up here. So while the CSS profile and the FAFSA take your information and they then send a report to the college, the IDOC allows you to directly submit documentation to schools through their secure portal. You can create a FAFSA or CSS profile on your own initiative, but IDOC requires that schools select you to participate. So if your college is an IDOC school, then you will receive notification about that. Okay, so the College Board service that will reach out to you. This is what it looks like if you have any interest in seeing it. It's just another, see again, it's the CSS profile. It's a way for you to submit your documentation through a secure service. And again, let's make it more confusing for families. And how do we know we're supposed to do this? It will come directly to the institution on behalf of your student. So you'll want to have them, that's another reason for them to be checking their portals to ensure that any of this financial aid information that you need, you're making sure that you receive it. I'm sure there's many of us that can say if we've had older kids that we can tell stories about how they don't let us know until the last second. We're running around trying to get information together and it can be very frustrating. So having them check their portal regularly will be very helpful and probably decrease some of the stress in your home. The other thing you want to really be aware of is that every family, has their own circumstances that happen. And sometimes life happens. And even though financial aid is based on numbers, oftentimes financial aid offices really can work with you. So please, 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 if you have a special circumstance in your family, I very strongly encourage you to reach out to the financial aid office that your student is interested in applying, is interested in attending, and they'll be able to, more often than not, be able to work with you to see what they can do. They really do want to try and help. Okay, so here we are with how did they come up with this process? And again, like, this isn't relevant until it's relevant. But some of the things that you will see is that we know that there is the cost of the education. We're looking at the total cost of the attending college. It used to be called the expected family contribution. They now have to call it the student aid index. So you have the cost of education minus your expected family contribution will be what your financial need is. And this is what colleges will attempt to use to be able to provide you with enough aid for you to make whatever college your student, whatever college your student wants to go to feasible for them. And I think you're going to see as we move through this, don't think that because a school is super expensive that you won't get the financial aid that you need in order to go to that school. There's lots of factors that play into that you'll see as we move through this. And I'm also going to show you some copies of what financial aid award letters look like to help you read them and provide you with resources. So when those come and you have them laid across your kitchen table or your dining room table, you'll be able to go through and see how much aid you really are getting. If you really want to know, I shared a couple of documents that you can look at when you want to, wondering how the amount, wondering how the aid is actually, it's calculated, so it's determined. So sometimes this is helpful for people who really, here's this, our virtual assistant again, we don't want to talk to him. So it can really be helpful. So when you understand some of the specific nomenclature or wording around it, so things like COA, cost of attendance, expected family contribution, like I said, it's now student aid index. What does non-based need mean versus need-based aid? So there's a lot of information in here that can be helpful and what things include and what they don't. So some fun reading for another day. As well as here's what the EFC formula was for 23-24. Again, the 24-25, there's very little information out about that yet. However, some of these things are not going to be different. So this is a nice document for you all to be able to look through and see how they are able to determine your EFC and any other information you really want to know about that formula and how it works. Okay. This is what happens when I try and use the mouse and the arrows at the same time. Okay. How much does this really cost? And I know when you get these financial aid award letters come in, you see the sticker shock. Well, I would go into sticker shock and say, you got to be kidding me. Or you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, well, I think we can do this, until you realize there's some things that are not necessarily always included on financial aid award letters. So just keep these things in mind. So we know billable, obviously, is tuition and room and board, and this will actually show on the bill. What I want to caution you on with the room and board is there are lots of different packages, and they don't always include the specific package that you might be interested in. They might include the lowest one, or they might include the highest one, or they might include a combination of something else. So please be careful when you're looking at what they're charging you for that room and board package when you're trying to calculate everything, because it may not be as obvious as you think. Indirect costs that are not going to be on the bill. You have to think about how much books are going to cost. I will tell you a lot of my kids' books were books that they can rent online. And it's cheaper. However, there are some kids that really like to have an actual book in their hand, where they can use a highlighter or mark it up or whatever they're going to do to it. So you have to consider the differences in cost between an online version of something that you can rent versus something that you will purchase and buy. Some kids are in a position where they're not living on campus. That also will be an indirect cost. Personal expenses, if your kids have to have a certain kind of shampoo or whatever it is that they need, those are things that you're going to have to pay for. Travel expenses, depending on where your child is going to be attending, that's also something you need to think about. I know I always use it as an example, but if your child is like, I want to go to college in Hawaii, and you're like, oh, okay, and then something happens and they actually are going to go to Hawaii, you want to have that discussion of like, okay, so the semester is over with, where are we storing everything? Because you're not going to be bringing it back and forth. There's all kinds of things that you'll have to think about. Not only traveling to the schools, but where you're going to keep things in between semesters and getting it there to begin with. Right. There's different types of financial aid on award letters, and we're going to go through them. So we've got loans, grants, we've got work study opportunities, and we have scholarships. Some of these things you have to repay, loans, and some of these things you don't have to repay, which would be grants and scholarships, which is where I think most of us are hoping we're going to be able to get a nice chunk of aid for our students. Right. When you look at a grant, there's different kinds of grants. So, and the federal Pell Grant and the Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, they are definitely based on income. So I have shared with you, here's a link for federal grants. Because what this does is it's going to be able to show you, okay, what is a federal Pell Grant? How much money can a student receive? So this was, for the 22-23 school year. So the annual award for this was up to $6,895. So you have to meet certain requirements to be eligible for this grant, and generally students who have exceptional financial need, who haven't earned a degree yet, would be the ones that would be eligible for that kind of grant. Again, the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant awarded to undergraduate students who have exceptional financial need and who have not earned a bachelor or graduate degree. There's teacher education assistance for college and higher education grants. So there's all kinds of different things that might be available to students. This is just the ones for federal grant programs. So I thought this was something that might be helpful for you to be able to take a look at. And I reference some of these moving forward as well. We also have state grants. So here is a link to the Connecticut's website on how you can receive information on financial aid. They actually do have some decent information in here, albeit hard to find sometimes for people. I am going to talk about a little bit more and how they do have some really good resources out there to help support you with this process. So there's a guide here, Paying for College, your guide to state and federal college aid programs. There's general information, and then you've seen stat on commercials on TV, I'm sure. So this is a Connecticut Higher Education Trust Program that allows parents to save for college at a substantial tax savings. So, and it will explain to you more about how that works. And I'm sure probably many of you attended our financial aid night that we had. I think it was in September. It is recorded. It's on our college and career website. And I would encourage you to go back and take a look at that. If you have questions about how do I, what kind of account should I be looking at? Is it a 529? What type of things should I be looking at? And that presentation really addresses a lot of those questions. Institutional grants are something that we don't necessarily know what they are. They come directly from a college or university. They're often need-based. So I put on here, that means they're awarded in order to help students pay for higher education who may not have the financial means to do so otherwise. So that oftentimes when kids apply to the college directly, they will automatically be considered for some of these scholarships and grants. What you need to be careful of, though, is that sometimes you do have to look at the school's website and ensure that that actually is the case. I have had some colleges through the years say, oh, well, you know, Johnny should have gone onto our website and known to apply by such and such a date. And it's just impossible for us as a counseling staff to know which schools do what on a yearly basis because it could change yearly. So I would just encourage you just to check on their financial aid website and make sure that if you have the opportunity to pay to request any or apply for any grants, that same thing with the scholarships, that you're taking advantage of that opportunity to do so. Scholarships. So scholarships also are another source of funding where you do not have to repay. And there's all different kinds of scholarships out there. And I know that you hear on the news all the time that there's bazillions of dollars that aren't used every year of students who haven't applied for or just looked for different kinds of scholarships. And some of that is true. I think some of those scholarships are very specific. You have to be like the left-handed violinist. No offense to anybody that is. I'm just saying there's just certain types of things that they're looking for that not everybody it's going to be you're going to be eligible for. So there are different kinds of websites you can look at to determine, look at different kinds of scholarships that are out there. I have some links to those as we move through this, so you'll be able to look through and do some searches. Academics, you're looking at merit-based academics, oftentimes for scholarship. So if it pays to be smart, and if you have done well with your GPA, you may find that there are merit-based scholarships out there for students across many different kinds of schools. Even if you haven't done as well as maybe you wanted to, don't sell yourself short, because there are always opportunities that you may never have thought of that can come your way. Obviously, we know about athletic scholarships. I would think that at this point, you're talking to your coach. You're working on, if you're interested in playing at a college, you've had those discussions. I know I've been in that position, still am with one of my kids. Maybe you have a student who is a strong leader, strong in civil service, strong with providing community volunteer. I don't know, there's all kinds of things that kids can do that might avail themselves to a scholarship. Or they're very much involved in music or theater. Keep in mind, just like the second line here says, these are usually very competitive. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try. I don't think there's anyone on our staff that would say, oh, don't try. It's too competitive. We want everyone to try. You never know what they're looking for on a yearly basis, and it's always to your benefit to throw your hat in the ring. There are institutional scholarships. So again, just like the grant-based scholarships, you're going to find that the grants, there's scholarships that are going to be specific to that particular college. So that's why I really encourage you to take a look at the financial aid page and ensure that students are automatically considered for these scholarships, or if there's something specific that you would need to do to have access to receiving that scholarship. So again, an institutional scholarship is a need or merit-based type of financial aid awarded by higher education institutes. Like other types of scholarships, institutional scholarships help offset the costs associated with higher education. There's national scholarships, and I'm going to show you a quick example of one from UConn. And then we have the state and local, including civic organizations. GSA would be an example of that. We also have You'll see, I've heard, in our senior awards presentation, our senior awards night, where we award lots and lots of scholarships for students. So I'll encourage you to have your child look at our college and career page on a regular basis. The local scholarships have a tendency to come in around the late winter, early spring time. And our kids, understandably so, do very well in those local scholarships. So I'd encourage you to encourage them, make sure they're staying on top of that. So here's an example of what UConn National Scholarship looks like. And a lot of colleges have these, but it's very confusing. So I just wanted to give this example so you have an idea of what you're looking at when you're thinking of what is a national scholarship. It's a national scholarship that is one that accepts applications from students across the United States. Typically, the term scholarship refers to undergraduate awards and fellowship refers to graduate awards. Some awards will fund your UConn education. Others may fund educational opportunities at other institutions or abroad. So it gives you when you apply, what are the odds for me to get something like this? Something to keep in mind as well, when you are receiving scholarship from different organizations, your financial aid package can very well change. So if you look at this line right here, will a scholarship affect my financial aid? Most scholarships will be factored into your financial aid package, and your total award may not exceed the cost of your education. If you have no financial need, you should still consider applying for award to gain its prestige value. So basically what that means is if you're going to receive a scholarship from someplace, it can be considered as part of your financial aid package. So just keep that in mind. But some of these are quite generous in what they offer, with some students receiving full room and board, tuition, and UConn in particular has been one that has also offered a stipend. So some of these kids are going like for free and more. So that's just an example of one of the national scholarship opportunities. Work study is also a really cool opportunity for students. This is something that will be awarded to a student in their financial aid package. So it's based on students who need aid. They'll have a job on campus doing something. Oh my gosh, I remember back in the day, I might have worked at the library. I think I worked as a student athletic trainer for a little while. Yes, I did that. That was fun. I do have to say that that money, so just keep in mind, is like I used to get a check, right? And it would come to me and then I would spend that money. It's not like it was necessarily going toward paying the bill. So that would be something for you to have a discussion with your student about where that money is going to go. There's a nice little article here on federal work study jobs help students earn money to pay for college or career school. Because we're not just talking in this whole discussion about just 2- and 4-year colleges. There are opportunities for students to apply for financial aid for trade schools as well. So that's all part of the financial aid process. Now the fun part. So we had this thing called loans, and loans are things that you have to repay. And it's something that I think young people in general have a hard time understanding. So I mean, even my own kids, like they're like, well, I could go to this school, but I would have to take out like $60,000 in loans every year. Well, I can repay that, and I'm like, I am not going to let you go someplace that you have over $200,000 in debt when you're finished. Like I'm not going to do that. So taking a look at this is where looking at that financial aid package itself, and what kind of things are available in that estimated family contribution, and all the things that they're asking and what the financial aid package looks like is going to really help make determination of where your student is going to be happy and where they'll be able to come out of this process with not having a mountain of. So we have the federal loans. These are all generated again from when you complete your FAFSA. So we have Perkins, and here we go with the specific terminology. We've got our Perkins loans, we have direct subsidized, we have direct unsubsidized. We have federal family loans, which are loans that parents will take out on behalf of their students. And then you also have companies that are private loan corporations, where you would take out loans as a family to also support any additional need that a student may have. So this link here is going to bring us to the different types of loans, possibly. Maybe it's spinning. Okay, maybe not. I'll come back to that in a second. But essentially, we're looking at the Perkins direct subsidized and direct unsubsidized. What it means is whether or not you're going to be basically be paying your loan while you're in school, or whether or not you're going to be allowed that grace period to be able to repay those loans at another time. There's Perkins loans, which also have some of these are very need-based loans. And you only can qualify for some of these, the Perkins in particular, if you have a certain, try this again. If you're showing that you have financial need. I'm wondering if this studentaid.gov is not working because maybe people are able to get on to the FAFSA. That would be lovely. I apologize for that not working. It has, so please feel free to go back and take a look at that at another time, because I think you'll find that there's some really good information in there on the different types of loans that are available in terms of on the federal side for students. You'll also see within that there's a chart. It will show you how much your student is allowed to take out at any particular year, so by semester. I'm at the age where when I went to college, I didn't care how much we took out. We could take out however much we wanted for however long we wanted. They don't let kids do that anymore. It can only be a certain amount per year. So it will share with you that type of specific information. Tesla is another organization within, you've seen this on commercials as well. It doesn't come up, I don't know what's going on. It must be my internet. But Tesla is an organization that is in the state of Connecticut that helps support, here we go, Connecticut Higher, come on, we can do it, here we go. Connecticut Higher Education Supplemental Loan Authority. So this is a state-based program that helps students and families come up with more resources to be able to support them through this financial aid process. I want you to take note up here though, as a state-based nonprofit lender, ELSA loans are not eligible for the federal student loan forgiveness or updated COVID-19 loan payment pause program. It also would mean some types of education that kids go into. So if students are going to go into the education field, for example, there are certain loan forgiveness that they can be eligible for later, but it has to be that the loan came through the federal government. It can't be through something like this. So really think about, I mean, some of these are great opportunities and great ways for students to be able to supplement what they need to be able to go to a particular college. So I don't want you to discredit this at all, but sometimes going the federal loan approach can be a good way to go depending on what your major may be. So this is a great opportunity for you to look and get further information about what the student loan programs look like. Private loans for families. I included some information in here from FinAid. which really, it really is a trusted source for us. But there's some good information in here when you scroll through about different lenders that can offer some good information for you about which ones you want to take a look at over others. And again, this is just FinAid's recommendations, but as a trusted website and a trusted organization that we've worked with for many years, I feel comfortable saying that you could take a look at some of these and feel like it's not like you're finding something that you've never heard of before, or maybe you haven't. But it does give you some good information on here, okay, about what the private student loans would look like. And oftentimes, you're taking those out in your child's name or your own name. I find that sometimes that isn't clear as to whether or not it will be in your child's name or whether it will be in your name. So ask a lot of questions and make sure you understand what all these things mean. All right, so just like what I was saying, here are some trusted sources for you to look at. FastWeb is a service that offers some great opportunities for you to learn about scholarship opportunities. Something called School Soup, which is really cool. Scholarship America, and also our Greenwich High School College and Career Center update, which Ms. Luckridge puts out every week with a bunch of scholarship information in there. Again, just a reminder, a lot of the local scholarship information will come out late winter, early spring. So continue to look back. I find that at that time of year, especially with the college process, the application process coming to an end, kids have kind of reached burnout time and they don't always want to write another essay. They don't always want to write, more short answers or fill out another application. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to really push them to do. And something that I want you to keep in mind as well is that when you receive some of these scholarships, unlike what the GSA offers with some of the things that they're discussing, is that they can be it can be a yearly thing while they're in college. Some of the scholarships that your student may receive is like a one-time thing. So they get it for the start of their freshman year, but they may not get it every year after that. So think about that when you're taking into consideration, like, what does this look like in terms of being able to pay the price tag for this every single year? Studentloans.gov for information on federal student and PLUS loans. The PLUS is that's your parent loans. Studentaid.ed.gov, that's the U.S. Department of Education. savingforcollege.com, advisors.com, and the CTOHE.org, Connecticut Office of Higher Education, is also something else that you may want to consider when you're looking through and trying to find out more information on scholarships, loans, grants. Now we're going to get into what it means when you get those award letters and how we really read them. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples of what some award letters look like, so you'll be able to reference them, and some good resources that you'll be able to continue to refer back to. So the first thing is you have to take a look at how much financial aid are you being offered? What does that look like? And you would think, well, yes, Michelle, that's what a financial aid award letter is. But you would be surprised. It's not as straightforward as you think it is. So distinguish your gift aid grants, scholarships from loans that must be repaid, or work study that must be earned over time. So you want to make sure you're understanding in these letters the things that you don't have to repay versus the things that you do have to repay, and how much of that in each. Ask questions. Ask questions. Don't ever assume anything. You also have the opportunity to, if you're thinking about asking for more money, the answer is always no unless you ask. So I encourage you to reach out to financial aid offices if their award amount was not that great compared to some of the other colleges that you received, they may be able to work with you. I've mentioned this earlier, but truthfully, honestly, the best people to contact are the financial aid people at the colleges. They really are happy to help. I don't know how they're happy to help with the amount of cranky people that must call up on a daily basis about because we're dealing with stressed parents and kids, but they really are happy, and they're always happy to answer any of your questions, set up meeting times with you, trying to make it as painless as possible. They do a wonderful job with that. So when we read the award letter, it's like I said, please don't assume anything. You want to ask these questions. How do outside awards affect the aid package? So I mentioned that earlier. You're receiving something from outside the school that's going to be sent directly to that college. How is that impacting your financial aid package overall? As I just mentioned, are scholarships and grants renewable each year, or are they just one-time things? What do you do and what happens if financial circumstances change? When and how do students sign for awards? So again, that is separate from the financial aid package in that you really do not have to accept all the aid that they offer you. You can accept some of it. So you want to make sure you understand how much you want of the aid package that they've given you. You may not need all of it. You may need more than what they're giving. So you want to make sure you're understanding what you're signing for and how they do it and when. And then how many hours a week do I need to work to earn the full work study award? And I think that is going to differ depending on the amount of financial aid award that's being offered you at that particular school. Okay, so we're comparing awards using net price. So what that means, what is net price? So your net price is the COA. So COA is cost of attendance minus gift aid. And I love how they call that, but that's your grants and scholarships equals your net price. So we're looking at the annual cost of attendance minus the gift aid. So, and then we're looking at what the overall net price is. So each college's net price for you, not the overall award being offered, okay? So again, you're gonna look at, and I'm going to show you some examples of some student financial aid packages. So you'll be able to take a look at the differences and see how they're not as straightforward as you think. Make sure you're meeting deadlines. Most of the time it's by May 1st. Here's a great article comparing school financial aid offers. We're going to take a look at that. How to review and compare your financial aid awards, and the student's guide to evaluating financial aid award letters. So all three of these are going to be great resources for you to review and reference back when these financial aid award letters come in. Let's take a look at them. I am being mindful of the time. It's almost 7:30 and we have about 2 more minutes. Please bear with me. Okay, so comparing school financial aid offers. So this is on the federal student aid site. Here's our friendly assistant aid, and again, we do not want to talk to. So it's going to walk you through about net price, just like what we talked about. I want to scroll down to, no, this is not the right one. This is the information that it's going to give you just about figuring out the net price. Okay, so I think this one. So this is from Big Future. Big Future is College Board site, and they actually do a good job with helping with this process, even though they're certainly not my most favorite organization in the world. I didn't say that, but they're not. So it gives you a section on how to compare your financial aid awards. I'm looking for, there's a chart that I want you to see. It might be in a different location, I apologize, but this is some really good information for you to be able to go back and read. This is an example of me putting too many things on here for you, so if you can't see it. So I want to see the award letters. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of different letters. So here's the first one. So we're taking a look at college A, college B, and college C. Okay, so we're going to break down the different sources of funding. You'll notice that gift aid accounts for grants and scholarships, which do not need to be repaid, and federal loan aid, which does require repayment. Understanding the difference between these two early in the process can help you make an informed decision. So we're looking at college A. We're seeing that we're getting $8,000 in federal loan. We're getting $10,000 in grants and scholarships. And so our total financial aid award is $18,000. College B, same process, $17,000 in financial aid awarded. And college C, $20,000 in financial aid awarded. So now we're going to have to look at how much does this actually cost, okay? So we're looking at college A, the cost of attendance is $26,000. The estimated family contribution, and again, it's going to be a different acronym this year, but EFC for the purposes of this is $8,000. And then you still have $18,000 that you need to come up with. The same, you look at B, you can see it's $22,000. The estimated family contribution will be the same regardless of what college you go to and what your need is for this. Then you're going to be able to see determining what your unmet need is. So college A shows you have $18,000 in unmet need in your financial need. The total of your financial aid offer was $18,000, so you have nothing in unmet need. College B is saying you have $14,000 for financial need. Your total financial aid award offer was $17,000, so it's actually more than you need. So you wouldn't have to take all of that out. Whereas college C, you've got $26,000 for your financial need. The total financial aid award offer was $20,000. So you still have $6,000 of unmet need. So where does that $6,000 come from? It comes from taking out more loans is generally where it comes from. So it'll be through parent loans or the private loans. So you're looking at the next part of this is how do we determine whether a financial aid award is good or bad? So again, we don't always want to look at the price tag because that's not always what you're going to end up paying. So college A, you're looking at cost of attendance of $26,000, your gift aid of $10,000, your net cost of $16,000. So this is the same information that we had from before, okay? What you'll have to pay in terms of what, if you look at this one in particular, so your net cost of college A, $16,000, estimated family contribution is the same across all three, and you'll be able to see what you'll need to borrow or pay. And it goes up exponentially in this particular example. So there's also a bunch of information in here about what do I need to do? Like when I'm looking at this, what other costs should I consider? Other things that what we've talked about. Terms of the loans and grants. What are the interest rates for these things? How is my financial aid dispersed? A lot of this is going to be really helpful as you get these letters that start coming in along with those acceptances in your student portal. Okay, so here are some other resources. So we have FAFSA Connecticut website, which actually is very good. And it gives you a lot of really good information about the entire process. The FAFSA itself. We did try to have, I think it was last week, we were ready to work with one of the colleges in having a FAFSA completion evening. And unfortunately, because of the soft launch, we couldn't do that quite yet. We're hoping to be able to offer that as an option within the next few weeks to be able to support you. This is a really good resource, the Connecticut Family FAFSA Guide. So I mentioned this briefly earlier, but you'll be able to download this document and it gives you, more basic information about what we just talked about. how you complete your FAFSA, the FAFSA ID, what kind of documents you need, and other information that we discussed a lot of these things this evening. Okay, so here's more information on the federal student loans as well that I couldn't pull up for some reason. Here's another one on how to read a financial aid award letter. This is a good one. This is from SCORE. I think you all are pretty familiar with SCORE, so you'd be able to, this provides some really good terminology. So here we are with cost of attendance, COA, student aid index, SAI, it used to be the estimated family contribution, work study, what Pell grants are, what the state grants are, institutional grants, merit scholarships, federal direct student loans. So there's that unsubsidized versus the subsidized loans, the Parent Plus loans, examples of financial aid packages. There's a really, you can watch this little video on how to read a financial aid award letter. They also give a couple of examples right here. So you can see financial aid package for university number one. We have your cost of attendance, total cost of attendance with tuition, room and board, and books, which is unusual to have books on there, but it is $18,312. And then you're looking at these are the grants and the scholarships and the unsubsidized student loan, the subsidized direct student loan, and your total financial aid. You have $15,000 in total financial aid. And then in number two, you're looking at the total cost of attendance is $72,540, but with all of these other loans that you're getting, the other aid that you're getting. So if you look at this institutional grant of $60,000, this particular university is offering like an amazing package, right? So just because it's a higher paid school doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be something that you won't be able to attend. So sometimes those schools are the ones that have the really good endowments that can help support students as they're looking at trying to find different ways to pay for school. I would encourage you to look through that as well. Here's something, the FAFSA and CSS profile, a straightforward guide to understanding financial aid. That's a great reference. Another example of student aid reports, these are from 22-23. Remember, we're kind of in limbo land, but it still provides some good information so you're able to see some differences. This comes directly from FAFSA itself. So this really is what it looks like. So it might be helpful for you to be able to take a look at that so you'll be a little bit more familiar with what's coming. We have a link to the GHS College and Career Center. There's always good information on there. I have put an article in here on how do 529 plans affect financial aid. And there's a book out there that has come pretty highly recommended about what's called How to Pay for College, a Complete Financial Plan for Funding Your Child's Education. That was a lot in a very short period of time, and I understand that, and I don't expect you to walk away from this thinking that you have all of the answers or that you really are feeling super 100% comfortable with everything. Again, what I wanted to make sure I did was to provide you with a way to be able to have resources that you can refer back to as we're looking at going through this process. So I do see some questions in here. So let's see. Somebody said that they were able to get on 4 days ago to the FAFSA. And it was during the day around 10 a.m. So that is awesome. So keep that in mind. Just maybe try and jump on and see if you can get on to the soft launch FAFSA. And then this person also said what we have done is having our son's email getting forwarded to us so we don't miss anything. That's a great tip. And then this was a specific question about estimated student aid index. So yes, that would be what your student aid index is, the expected family contribution, and that would mean what that number relates to is how much you will be expected to pay at regardless of whatever school you attend. So I am also more than happy to try and answer any questions you have after this. You can always email me, or I'd also encourage you to email your student counselor. I know you all have wonderful relationships with them, and they're more than happy to walk you through this process as well. So again, I thank you for your attention. I think that was a lot of information in a very short period of time. This presentation has been recorded, so I will put this up for you as soon as it's available, and I will also share the slide deck with you on our website. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you all have a great evening.